Hello, YouTubers, friends, compatriots, bootlicker, shills, debt slave, sirs. I'm Useful Idiot. Welcome. And so, some numbers have just come out of Ukraine that are just another example of so much else we've seen that show that Ukrainians are ultimately in an untenable position. And these figures are of desertions. And desertions in the Ukraine army have doubled in the last year. And we can give these figures a lot of credibility because they're not coming from Russian sources, they're coming from Ukrainian sources. And those figures are 100,000 to 250,000 desertions. And I would tend to go with the higher number, 250,000 desertions over the last several months, particularly where attrition has just been horrible. And we shouldn't be surprised by that, considering the methods that Ukraine has had to use to keep their military in the field, including going around and rounding up prostitutes and drunks and people from prison, people with Down syndrome, pregnant women. The average age of a Ukrainian soldier is 46. That's the average age. So we have soldiers that are as high as in the 60s. And this is how they fielded an army in a battleground that's essentially a meat grinder. And the technology is such now that it's pretty easy to pick out flashpoints along a whole front and just use smart technology to take out wherever the fire is coming from. So it's pretty easy to obliterate the enemy in a technologically run battlefield right now. And as we know from another video I did, also from Ukrainian sources, that up to 1,700,000 Ukrainian soldiers have been killed. So we can only imagine what they're seeing on the battlefront. And I have to assume as well that they're not that well equipped either, because a lot of the equipment gets destroyed almost immediately when it's sent to the front. And then there's got to be supply chain issues, and then there's got to be issues with a lot of the hardware that's been given to the Ukrainians, and also the fact that a lot of times people are thrown in the front so quickly they don't even have any training and don't even know how to use a lot of the equipment that they're given. But that's a staggering number. That's a quarter of the soldiers that Ukraine has fielded on a very long front from the top of Ukraine to the bottom. And there's huge holes in the front line because of this, and they're only monitored by drones. And so this shows once again that Ukraine is in a very poor position. They would be much better off negotiating for some sort of ceasefire and slash peace. Of course, Putin only wants some sort of peace agreement. For him, a ceasefire, justifiably so, would be used just to give the Ukrainians enough time to regroup and rearm themselves. And as we've seen from ceasefires all over the world, especially lately, these ceasefires are hardly ceasefires. My understanding is when you have a ceasefire, that fire ceases, and that's just not how it happens in the world today. Look at the Middle East. There's a ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon, and Israel's bombing southern Lebanon every single day. But anyway, once again, these kind of figures are staggering, not surprising at all, and just shows that Ukraine continues to be in an untenable position, and they're going to find it harder and harder to find people to throw in the meat grinder in the front. And I don't know exactly where these 250,000 people would go if they would just blend back into the country, which is the most likely possibility, or if they somehow manage to get out of the country. That's part of the problem with Ukraine as well. Of course, when they started the draft, a lot of the people that had means, and certainly a lot of young people, just got the fuck out of Dodge and moved out of Ukraine and are spread around the world now. But the people that stayed certainly are of low means and a very diverse demographic, as I mentioned earlier. Pretty much the Ukrainian army will take anybody now and will take a lot of people against their will and just throw them in the meat grinder. So just one more thing that shows that Ukraine can't possibly win this war, and the sooner they go to the table, the better, and they need to either swallow their pride or get rid of Zelensky, but it has to happen with information like this coming out. I'm a useful idiot. Don't you be one too.